The airport felt like a small city that morning. Lights glowed softly from the ceiling, carts hummed past, and people rolled luggage like tiny trains. Maya, 8 years old, walked beside her dad toward the gate with careful steps, as if the floor itself might test her confidence. She wore a sky blue sweater with a stitched cloud on the front and hugged her favorite teddy bear under one arm. The bear's name was Captain Buttons because of his shiny black eyes. Her dad leaned down and spoke gently, "You're boarding first, okay? I'll be right behind you. I just need to finish one quick call." Maya nodded and tried to stand taller, like a brave traveler in a storybook. It was her first time sitting in first class. She had flown before, but always near the back, where the windows felt smaller and the snacks came later. Today felt different. She held her boarding pass like a magic ticket. It read 3A in neat letters. Her dad had explained that airlines sometimes let children board early so they could settle in. He kissed the top of her head and handed the boarding pass back. "Show them this. Be calm. You know what to do." They reached the gate. The big screen said the flight would depart on time. At the front, a woman in a crisp uniform smiled and called for pre-boarding. The area around the desk smelled like fresh coffee and clean carpet. People checked their watches. Some looked sleepy, some looked excited. Maya stepped forward when the agent said, "Families with young children may board now." She offered her pass with both hands, like it was something delicate. The gate agent, his name tag read Tom, scanned it with a friendly beep and said, "Good morning, 3A. Enjoy the flight." He guided her forward toward the jet bridge. Inside the jet bridge, the air felt cooler and the world suddenly grew quiet except for the echo of steps. At the plane door, a flight attendant with a warm smile greeted her. The name badge on her uniform said Sophia. "Hello there," Sophia said, lowering her voice a little, the way kind adults do when they speak to kids without talking down to them. "May I see your pass?" Maya showed it again. "Welcome to first class, 3A, Sophia said, and she guided Maya down the short aisle. Large seats stood like comfy chairs in a living room. Soft lights glowed above each one. Maya ran her fingers lightly over the armrest, surprised by how smooth it felt. Maya placed Captain Buttons on the window ledge and slid into her seat. She could see the sunrise spreading across the wing like peach-colored paint. She buckled her seat belt, just like her dad always reminded her, and checked to make sure her small backpack fit under the seat. Her heart fluttered with a mix of pride and butterflies. She whispered to the bear, "We did it, Captain." Moments later, footsteps approached, quick and sure. A woman stood near the row, looking down with a firm expression, her jaw set as if she had been practicing an important speech in her head. "Excuse me," the woman said, voice careful but sharp at the edges. "I think there's a mistake. That seat is not for you." The woman wore a white blazer and carried a handbag that looked expensive. Her confidence filled the small space like a strong perfume. Maya blinked, unsure for a second if she had misheard. She looked at her boarding pass, then up again. The woman continued, "This section is for first-class passengers. You might be in the wrong place." She did not raise her voice, but the words had a heavy weight. Before Maya could answer, Sophia stepped in like a steady breeze. "Good morning," she said to the woman, her tone kind and even. "This is seat 3A, and her boarding pass matches." Sophia turned to Maya and gave a small nod that said, "You're okay." Maya held out the pass again. Sophia glanced at it, checked the row marker, and smiled. "Everything is correct." Maya stayed quiet but breathed a little easier. She had done what her dad taught her, show the pass and let the grown UPS handle it. The woman in white did not move away. "I understand," she said, "but perhaps the ticketing system made an error. These seats are limited. It would be better to confirm now than to have problems later." She looked toward the front of the cabin as if expecting someone with a higher badge to appear. Can we ask the gate to double check? Her voice remained polite, but there was a coldness underneath, as if the idea of a child in that seat did not fit her picture of how the world should look. First class has certain standards, she added softly, more to herself than anyone else. Sophia kept her voice light. Of course, ma'am. We can confirm. She gave Maya a reassuring smile and slipped forward to the front. She spoke with the lead at the door for a moment, then waved to Tom, who had just finished scanning another passenger. Tom came down the jet bridge and onto the plane, tablet in hand. He tapped a few times, then looked up. 3A is fully paid and assigned to Maya Brooks. It's all correct. He spoke gently, not to embarrass anyone, but to make the truth steady and solid. The woman frowned slightly, not in anger but in stubborn doubt. I purchased a full fare ticket, she said. This seat was shown as available to me at check-in, and now it's not. So something is off. She looked again at Maya, just a quick glance, not unkind, but measuring. Maybe she's on a companion pass meant for a different section. Tom shook his head. No companion pass. This is a confirmed, paid seat. Around them, other passengers were settling in. An older gentleman across the aisle gave Maya a small smile. A young mother with a toddler tried to keep the child's hands away from the safety card. Maya felt her cheeks warm, but she remembered her dad's words. Be calm. Show your pass. Let the staff do their job. She kept her hands folded on her lap and reached one finger to touch Captain Button's soft ear. She did not want to cry, because she was not sad. She was certain she had done nothing wrong. She was just a kid with a ticket, sitting where the ticket told her to sit. She looked out the window again and watched the sun move a tiny bit higher. The wing looked like it was pointing to someplace better. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Dad, all good. Maya typed with small, careful thumbs, a lady says my seat is wrong. Miss Sophia is helping. A moment later, the phone buzzed again. Dad, you're okay. I'm coming, sweetheart. Maya's shoulders relaxed. She put the phone away and tried to focus on the soft music playing in the cabin. It sounded like piano keys falling like drops of water. She sat a little taller and took a slow breath, just like her dad had taught her. Sophia returned with a tiny pair of plastic wings and a paper cup of water. For our young traveler, she said. And just to confirm, you're perfect where you are. Maya accepted the wings as if they were a badge of courage. Thank you, she said, her voice steady now. Sophia spoke to the woman with the same calm. Tom rechecked everything. If you still have concerns, we can involve our lead supervisor. We do want you to feel comfortable. She said it like a promise, not a challenge. The woman pressed her lips together, then nodded toward the front. Yes, I'd like a supervisor, please. She stood nearby, holding her handbag close, as if keeping her balance on a moving train. Tom stepped back into the jet bridge to make a call. The plane door remained open. The air outside felt cooler again, and a small rush of conversation from the gate area floated in and out. The captain, a tall woman with a confident stride, peeked into the cabin, spoke quietly with Sophia and Tom, and then disappeared back to the cockpit, likely to keep the schedule on track. People kept boarding. A flight attendant offered newspapers to the first row. The older gentleman across the aisle adjusted his reading glasses and looked over at Maya again. Big adventure today, he said softly, just loud enough for her to hear. Maya smiled. My first time up here, she whispered. He nodded as if that explained the whole world. Farther back, a couple talked about connecting flights. The cabin was filling, yet it felt like all the attention in the room gathered in this small, bright corner where a little girl sat with a teddy bear and a firm but kind crew stood close by. Tom returned, tablet still in hand. Supervisor is on the way, he said to the woman. In the meantime, we're still on schedule. Ma'am, your seat is 3B. You're welcome to sit while we finalize this. The woman hesitated, eyes flicking between the aisle and Maya's seat. I'll wait, she said finally, staying on her feet. Her voice had lost some of its sharpness, it sounded more tired now, like someone who had stayed awake too late and needed the world to be simple again. She held onto the top of 3B as if it were a railing. Maya glanced at Captain Buttons and then at the window, finding comfort in the small things, the soft hum from somewhere deep in the plane, the little light over her seat that she could turn on with a gentle push, the way the wing curved upward at the tip like a smile. She wondered if the clouds felt different when you started your journey from the front of the plane. She wondered if the orange in the sunrise looked brighter from here. Mostly, she wondered how many minutes it would take for her dad to walk down the jet bridge and give her that look that said, "I'm here." Her phone buzzed again. "Dad, 2 minutes." The words felt like a blanket. Maya tucked the phone away and folded her hands again. Sophia stood near the galley, keeping an eye on both Maya and the boarding door. Tom checked his tablet and gave a small nod to himself, as if he had just solved a math problem and liked the answer. The older gentleman in 3C closed his eyes for a moment and then opened them again, maybe listening to the same soft music that Maya heard. The supervisor had not arrived yet, but somehow the air felt steadier. The facts were clear. The rules were clear. And Maya's boarding pass, small but firm, spoke for her when she did not want to speak. She kept her chin up, not to be defiant, but to be ready to smile when her dad appeared. The plane's door was still open, and the light from the gate area stretched across the carpet like a path. Footsteps sounded on the jet bridge, growing closer. Maya sat very still. Captain Buttons watched the sunrise with her, and the sky kept brightening, as if it, too, believed that the right seat belongs to the right person, especially when that person has the courage to sit quietly and trust the truth. Boarding continued like a gentle tide, people flowing down the aisle with soft bumps and quiet excuse me sounds. The cabin lights glowed warm. Maya sat with her hands folded and her backpack tucked under the seat, the tiny plastic wings pinned to her sweater like a secret medal. She glanced at Captain Buttons on the window ledge and then at the woman in the white blazer, who still stood near 3B with a steady, doubtful look. The woman seemed calm but set, like a person asking a locked door to open simply because she believed it should. Tom checked his tablet again. "Ma'am," he said kindly to the woman, "your boarding pass shows 3B. The system is clear. 3A is assigned to Maya." He didn't point or raise his voice. He simply placed the facts on the table, like a cup of water in front of someone who might be thirsty. He then looked at Maya with a small, reassuring nod. "All good here." The woman's expression did not melt. "I hear you," she replied, "but sometimes the system gets things wrong. I've flown with you a lot. I know how this works." She placed a hand on the headrest of 3B and spoke slowly, measuring each word. "First class is for passengers who meet certain terms. Please, let's not make this complicated." Sophia stayed close, her presence steady, like a lamp that doesn't flicker even when the room grows busy. "We truly don't want to complicate anything," she said. "We want to keep everyone comfortable and follow our policy." "We've confirmed her seat." She smiled at Maya. "Would you like some orange juice while we finish boarding?" Maya nodded gently. The idea of orange juice felt like a small sunrise inside her chest. The older gentleman in 3C adjusted his glasses and looked at the woman kindly. "Ma'am, may I say something?" he asked. When she glanced over, he continued, "I spoke to the gate agent often in my years of travel. They rarely get something like this wrong. The little one has her seat." He turned to Maya and smiled. "First time up front?" Maya whispered yes. "Enjoy it," he said. "You'll remember this flight." The woman pressed her lips together again, not in anger, but in the way a person does when they feel certain the world is out of order. This isn't personal, she said, gesturing lightly. It's about doing things the right way. I paid a full fare. I have status with this airline. There are rules for a reason. She looked past Sophia, as if she hoped another authority would appear and declare a new truth. Tom used his tablet as a calm anchor. Full fare, checked. Status, we appreciate it. Seat, assigned correctly to her. He looked up and softened his tone. Ma'am, we're minutes from departure. I can bring the lead supervisor if you prefer, but the answer will be the same. Maya listened to every word, like beads sliding along a string. Her dad had taught her the value of quiet. When the ocean is noisy, listen for the steady drum, he would say. She tried to find that drum now, the soft music in the cabin, the humming from the floor, the easy breath in and out. She adjusted the teddy bear so he faced the aisle, as if he also needed to understand the world's rules. Her phone buzzed. Dad, at the gate. She typed with careful hands, the lady is still unsure. They're calling a supervisor. Miss Sophia is kind. A moment later, Dad, you're doing great. I'm almost there. The words landed like a warm coat around her. She tucked the phone away and kept her eyes forward. Sophia returned with the orange juice. She knelt slightly to be eye level with Maya. Here you go. You are welcome here. Everything is okay. Maya took a sip. It tasted like sweet sunlight. Sophia then rose and spoke to the woman again, evenly. Our lead can stop by before we close the door. In the meantime, you're welcome to take 3B. The woman didn't sit. I'll stand, she said. But her voice had lost a little edge. It sounded more like a sigh with words in it. Perhaps she felt the press of time too. Perhaps she remembered other flights, other mornings, other times she asked the world to bend and it didn't. The line of passengers thinned. A mother carrying a sleepy baby smiled at Sophia, who smiled back. A man in a navy suit tried to fit his briefcase in the overhead bin, then shifted it, then finally placed it neatly. A young couple whispered about their vacation. The cabin felt more and more like a small village about to take a shared journey across the sky. Tom's radio clicked softly. He listened, then looked up. Supervisor is 2 gates away, he reported. We remain on schedule. The captain stepped out for a final look and gave a small nod to Sophia and Tom. When she glanced toward Maya, her face relaxed. She seemed to approve of how calm the corner was, despite the questions in the air. Maya watched Sophia's careful steps, the way she checked the galley, greeted a passenger, then reached for a safety card with fluent hands. She admired this quiet skill. The woman in white still stood nearby, but her posture softened. She placed her handbag on the seat for a moment, as if allowing herself to rest. She pulled it back up again, then looked at her watch. I've been loyal to this airline for years, she said, more to herself than anyone else. I expect consistency. Tom met her eyes. We appreciate your loyalty, he said. Consistency means honoring the seat you're assigned. It also means caring for every passenger with the same respect. He spoke the words carefully, like placing stepping stones across a creek. The older gentleman in 3C cleared his throat and offered a small story, the way older travelers do when a room needs a bridge. Once, he said, I was on a flight where a family was separated by mistake. The crew swapped seats with volunteers so the child could sit with a parent. It wasn't a question of who deserved what. It was a question of care. He smiled, looking at the woman, not unkindly. Care is the first class we all need. The woman looked down, then up, then at Maya. Something in her face shifted, not fully, but enough to let in a little light. I understand the point you're making, she said, almost thoughtful. I just want to be sure we are doing things properly. Her tone had moved from firm to careful. The room felt it, like a temperature change you notice only when a breeze stops. Sophia gave a gentle nod. That's all we want to. She checked the aisle again and said softly, we close the door soon. The supervisor will be here any second. Tom looked to the front, listening for footsteps on the jet bridge. The captain returned to the cockpit, confident the team could handle this last check. Maya took another sip of juice and placed the cup carefully in the holder. She realized she wasn't scared anymore. She was simply waiting for the world to finish its small test. She thought of her dad's hand on her shoulder at the gate, the way his eyes always said, "You belong wherever truth puts you." She touched Captain Button's ear and felt the familiar softness. The woman's phone buzzed in her blazer pocket. She looked at a message, sighed, and put it away. Perhaps it was a work note, a reminder, or a text from someone miles away that said, "How's your flight?" She stood a little straighter and looked toward the front. "I'm not trying to ruin anyone's morning," she said finally. "I just want to be sure." Her voice held a thin line of pride, but it wasn't unkind anymore. It was careful pride, like a book you hold by the spine so the pages don't bend. Tom nodded. "We hear you." He glanced at Maya and back. "And we're sure." Another passenger paused near the row, unsure if he should pass in the aisle or wait. Sophia smiled and tucked herself in to make space. The small dance of travel continued, luggage wheels, seat belts clicking, overhead bins closing with a firm push. The woman still hadn't sat down. It was as if sitting would be the same as agreeing, and she wasn't quite ready to agree. Maya's phone buzzed again. "Dad," at the jet bridge door. She didn't smile big, but her eyes warmed like someone lighting a candle. She placed the phone away and folded her hands, feeling stronger inside. The older gentleman noticed the small change in her face and gave her a wink, as if to say, "Almost there." Sophia's radio crackled. "Lead is here," a voice said. "On board now." The woman in white inhaled softly, as if relief and worry both arrived at the same time. Tom stepped toward the plane door, ready to present facts again, simple and clear. It was not a performance. It was a practice. For a brief second, the cabin became extra quiet to Maya. She heard only the soft fans and her own breathing. She thought of the sunrise outside, now brighter, filling the wing with color. She thought of the little wing pin on her sweater, a symbol that felt earned. She thought of her dad's words, "Calm is a kind of strength." A shadow grew at the cabin door, a figure stepping in. Maya didn't turn right away. She held still, the way you hold still for a photo so the picture doesn't blur. The figure paused to speak with Tom. The words were low, respectful. Sophia listened with her hands folded, ready to help. The woman in white lifted her chin, waiting for a verdict. Then Maya heard it, the familiar tone of a voice she could pick out of a crowd, even in a busy airport, even at the edge of a hurricane of noise. It wasn't loud. It was gentle and warm, like someone asking if the room needed more light. The voice said, "Good morning. Is everything okay here?" And even before she turned, Maya knew who it was. She turned anyway. At the front, a man in a simple sweater stood beside Tom, listening with kind eyes. He didn't rush. He didn't push forward. He looked first at her, as if checking the weather inside his daughter's heart. Maya didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her shoulders lowered a little more, and the world felt steady again. The woman in white watched him too, perhaps expecting another crew member or a higher badge with a strict tone. Instead, she saw a calm face and careful hands. She did not know his name. She did not know his job. She only knew he arrived like a pause, the good kind, the kind that lets the truth step forward and take a breath. Tom angled the tablet slightly, ready to show assignments, manifests, and seat maps one more time. Sophia stood rooted and relaxed, the way only practiced helpers can. The aisle seemed to make space on its own. Maya rested her palm on Captain Buttons and waited. She did not feel small. She felt ready. The plane door was still open, but the moment felt like a doorway to one they would all walk through together, the woman, the crew, the quiet man at the front, the girl in 3A with a brave heart and a shiny little pin. Her phone stayed in her pocket. She didn't need to check it now. She already knew what the next message would say if it came, "I'm here." And that, more than anything else, was the steady drum she had been listening for since the start. Tom's tablet glowed softly in his hands. He stood near the doorway like a lighthouse, steady and clear. The man in the simple sweater, Maya's dad, spoke first, but he didn't rush. He didn't even step into the row. He just smiled at Tom and Sophia and then looked at his daughter. "Hi, you," he said gently to Maya. "Everything okay?" Maya nodded. "I'm okay," she answered. "Miss Sophia gave me juice." "Good," he said, letting out a small breath that seemed to relax the air around them. He glanced at the woman in the white blazer and offered a polite nod. "Good morning." The woman held her handbag a little closer. "Good morning," she replied, careful and formal. She seemed unsure whether to see him as part of the crew or just another passenger. Tom kept his voice calm. "We're just clarifying a seat assignment, sir. 3A is assigned to Maya Brooks, 3B is assigned to this passenger." Maya's dad folded his hands loosely, like someone ready to listen. "Could we walk through it once more?" he asked. "No rush words. Just what the computer says, what the boarding pass says, what the policy says." Tom nodded. "Of course." He showed the tablet screen to Sophia first, then angled it so it wouldn't disturb other passengers. "Here's the manifest. Passenger name, Maya Brooks. Seat 3A. Fare, confirmed and paid." He tapped again. "Passenger name, Lydia Hale. Seat 3B. Fare, confirmed and paid." The woman Lydia kept her chin lifted. "I believe there may be a system glitch," she said. "I saw 3A open when I checked in. I expected to sit there." Her tone was not harsh now, but it was still firm. "I just want to be sure everything is proper." Maya's dad nodded as if he fully understood. "I hear that," he said. "Thank you for saying it clearly." He looked back at Tom. "And we've confirmed at the gate." "Yes, sir," Tom replied. "Scanned, verified, and cross-checked." "Twice." Sophia added, "We also checked with our lead on board. Everything matches." The aisle grew quieter for a moment, as if the plane itself were listening. The older gentleman in 3C set down his newspaper and folded his hands too. He didn't speak this time. He simply looked relaxed, as if trust itself were a seat belt. Maya's dad turned to Lydia with a gentle question. "May I ask what would make you feel satisfied? Not about getting your way, but about feeling sure." Lydia did not answer right away. She looked at the carpet, then the window, then the tablet. "I want to hear it from someone in charge," she said finally. "Someone who can say, 'This is the final word.'" Tom's radio clicked. "Lead supervisor on approach," a clear voice said. "Door remains open." "Thank you," Tom replied into the radio. He looked at Lydia. "Our lead will be here any second." Sophia offered, "Would you like water while you wait?" She said it with simple kindness, as if water itself could help a complicated morning rest for a minute. Lydia hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, thank you." She accepted the small plastic cup, held it, but did not drink. Maya's dad still didn't introduce himself. He kept the attention on the process, not on his title. "I appreciate that you want certainty," he told Lydia. "We all do. Let's let the process speak." The captain stepped out again for a brief moment. "Today," She wore a calm smile and a neat braid. Her name patch read Captain R. Reyes. She scanned the row, took in the scene, and spoke softly to Tom and Sophia. "We're on time," she said. "Lead is 2 steps behind me." "Thanks, Captain," Tom said. Captain Reyes gave Maya a small nod. It wasn't a big gesture, but it felt like a hand on a shoulder. Then she returned to the cockpit. Footsteps came from the jet bridge. A person in a navy vest with a tablet and a badge stepped into the doorway. "Good morning," she said. "I'm the lead today. I understand we're clarifying seats." Tom took one short breath of relief, like someone finally handing over a heavy bag. "Yes," he said. 3A is assigned to the child, Miss Brooks. 3B is assigned to Miss Hale. System shows confirmed, paid, and correct. The question is whether there was a glitch at check-in. The lead, her badge read A. Farrad, tapped her screen, then looked up. "No glitch," she said. "The record is clean. 3A has been assigned to Miss Brooks since purchase." There were no changes at the gate. Silence followed, but it was a calm silence. A steady kind. The kind that puts things where they belong. Lydia stood very still. Her voice, when it came, carried less armor. "Thank you for checking," she said. "I want to do things properly." She looked at Maya and then away, as if meeting a mirror and not being sure what to do with the reflection. "I was concerned about standards." Maya's dad didn't move closer. He kept respectful space. "May I ask," he said gently, "what does standards mean to you in this case?" Lydia's lips parted, then closed. She seemed surprised by the question. "I suppose it means that first class follows certain terms," she said slowly. "Comfort, quiet, service. A certain consistency." The lead nodded. "We deliver those things through policy," she said. "Policy begins with a valid ticket. Then we add kindness. That is how first class stays first class." Sophia's eyes softened, and Tom rested the tablet against his chest, as if giving the facts a soft place to lean. Maya's dad turned the question back to the team. "What is the policy when a seat is challenged?" he asked the lead, not to quiz her, but to let everyone hear the answer at once. "We verify without blame," the lead said. "We confirm the seat. We support the passenger whose seat is correct. We offer care to the other passengers so everyone feels respected. We avoid shame. We avoid big scenes. We stay on time if we can." Maya watched the lead speak. The words felt like steps on a path that someone had measured many times. Lydia's shoulders relaxed a small degree, the way curtains shift when a closed window finds a breeze anyway. "I appreciate your process," she said. She took a sip of water. "I did not mean to cause trouble." "You asked for certainty," Maya's dad said kindly. "We have it now." The older gentleman in 3C smiled at the lead, at Tom, at Sophia. His eyes said thank you, so the cabin would not need to. A few more passengers stepped on. The door made a quiet breath sound each time it opened and closed. Overhead bins slid shut, one by one, like books finding their shelves. The cabin felt more settled. Lydia looked at 3B. She wasn't avoiding it anymore. She was just measuring the last bit of doubt inside her and deciding what to do with it. Maya's dad turned to Sophia. "Before we close the door," he asked, "could we make sure Maya feels comfortable? Maybe a blanket if you have one." Sophia's face warmed. "Yes, of course." She handed Maya a soft gray blanket from the overhead locker. "This one is light. Good for little travelers." "Thank you," Maya said. She placed it over her legs and smoothed the edge. The fabric felt like a calm sky. Maya's dad looked back at Lydia. "If you like the aisle," he said, 3B is an easy spot for quick exit. Some people prefer it for that reason." Lydia blinked, as if he had offered her a small gift. I do prefer the aisle, she admitted, a tiny smile flickering at the corner of her mouth. I like to stretch my legs. Then it sounds like you got your favorite without even trying, he said lightly. A few soft laughs floated in the air, kind laughs, not unkind. Not at anyone. Just at the funny way mornings can twist and still land softly. The lead looked at her watch and then at Tom. We're good to close. Tom checked the tablet one more time. We're good, he said. All assigned seats correct and filled. Before the lead stepped away, Lydia cleared her throat. I have one more question, she said, quieter now. What happens if a child's parent isn't nearby? How do you make sure the child feels safe? Sophia answered without missing a beat. We check in often, she said. We make eye contact. We explain what's happening, step by step. If needed, we recede to keep family closer. Our goal is comfort with clarity. Maya's dad gave a grateful nod. Thank you for that, he said. He finally moved closer from the aisle to the edge of row 3, but just enough to rest his hand on the top of Maya's seat, not into anyone's space. I'm staying right here until we push back, he told her softly. You're doing wonderfully. Maya looked up, her eyes bright. I know, she said. I was brave. You were, he said. Very brave. The lead gave Sophia and Tom a last nod and stepped toward the door. Thank you, team, she said. She gave the woman in white a small smile too. Thank you for your patience, ma'am. Lydia's reply was soft. Thank you, she said, and this time she meant all of them, not just the lead. She sat down in 3B, finally. She placed her handbag under the seat and adjusted the belt. She looked at Maya, just for a second, and then looked away. But that second held something new. It held a small beginning. Sophia moved down the aisle, checking belts, guiding bags, answering a whisper here and there. Tom returned to the jet bridge to help close the door. The captain made an announcement from the cockpit in a voice like a smooth road, welcome aboard, short taxi, clear skies, relaxed ride. Maya's dad stood beside 3A and 3B, a quiet figure whose presence seemed to give the row a gentle frame. He still hadn't told anyone his title. He wasn't hiding it. He just didn't need it to solve this moment. He let facts and kindness carry the weight. Lydia cleared her throat lightly. Sir, she said to him, not sure what to call him, thank you for being calm. He nodded. It helps me think, he said. And it helps the truth be heard. The older gentleman in 3C chuckled under his breath. The truth likes quiet rooms, he said. Lydia looked at Maya again. I suppose I made the morning harder than it needed to be, she said, choosing her words with care. I thought I was protecting standards. Maybe I was just protecting my own picture of things. Maya's dad offered no lecture. Pictures can change, he said simply. The door closed with a soft thump that felt like a period at the end of a long sentence. The jet bridge pulled away. The cabin lights shifted slightly, as if the plane had taken a deep breath. Sophia began the safety checks with a teammate. Seat backs straightened. Phones went into airplane mode. The world outside rolled slowly but smoothly. As the plane pushed back, Maya's window showed a moving gallery of ground vehicles, painted lines, and big silver wings resting at nearby gates. She touched the glass, then pulled her hand back because it was a little cool. She tucked the blanket under her knees again and looked at her dad. Will you stay for takeoff? She asked. Right here, he said, and he meant it standing, not blocking anyone, just present. Then I'll move to my seat once we're in the air. She smiled. She liked the idea of him being near while the ground turned into a soft, far-away picture. Lydia faced forward, hands folded. She looked like someone finishing a quiet deal with herself. After a long moment, She leaned slightly toward Sophia as the attendant passed and whispered, "When there's time, I would like to say something to the girl." It was not a demand. It was a hope. Sophia nodded once. After takeoff, she said kindly, "We'll find a calm moment." The plane reached the runway and paused, waiting its turn. The engines grew a little louder, but not unfriendly. It sounded to Maya like a big cat purring before a long leap. She felt her heart beat faster. The older gentleman closed his eyes and smiled, as if remembering the first time he ever took this ride. Maya's dad leaned down. "Remember how it feels," he said softly to her. "The wheels, the lift, the moment your tummy jumps a little. It's the sky saying hello." Maya nodded, eyes bright. She put one hand on captain buttons and one hand on the armrest. She was ready. Just before the roll began, the captain's voice came on again, warm and sure. "Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff." Sophia checked the last details and gave Maya a thumbs up she held low, just for her. The plane started forward. The runway line slid under the wing. The engines hummed like a promise. The speed grew. The cabin made that collective quiet that people make when everyone is waiting for the same good thing. Maya felt the gentle push. Then the light lift. Then the soft float that meant the ground had let go. Her tummy jumped, but in a happy way. She smiled so wide she had to close her lips to keep the joy from spilling into a laugh. They climbed. The city grew small. The clouds opened like white doors. And through it all, Maya stayed in 3A, blanket warm, teddy steady, calm inside a morning that had tried to be complicated and had ended up being simple instead. Her dad stayed by the row, steady as ever. He looked across at Lydia just once, and in his eyes there was no winning or losing. There was only a quiet agreement that care and policy had worked together like two hands holding the same cup. As they leveled off, the seat belt sign stayed on for a few more minutes. The cabin settled into its sky quiet. The morning had moved forward, and everyone on the plane moved forward with it. Somewhere near the front, the captain spoke in a low aside to a colleague, her eyes flicking, for just a second, toward the man in the simple sweater. There was a hint of recognition there, the kind that lives in the corners of a professional's smile. But no words were said out loud. Not yet. The sky held that secret for one more part of the story. The plane climbed through a soft layer of clouds and then leveled into calm air. The seatbelt sign chimed off with a friendly sound. People reached for books and headphones. The morning, which had felt tight a few minutes ago, began to loosen like a knot that finally understood how to let go. Maya kept the gray blanket over her knees. She watched the sky as if it could speak. Her dad stayed beside the row, one hand resting on the top of her seat, the other easy at his side. He didn't hurry to say more. He let the quiet do some of the work. The older gentleman in 3C smiled without looking over, a polite sign that all was well. Sophia came by to check belts and smiles. "How are we doing here?" she asked gently. "Good," Maya's dad said. His voice was warm but steady. "Thank you." Lydia sat in 3B now. She had finally put her handbag under the seat and folded her hands. Her face looked softer, like a page that had been read a second time. She glanced at Maya once, as if testing whether the world would allow a second beginning. The captain stepped out for a moment while her co-pilot monitored the panel. She had that same calm braid and that same clear way of looking at a room. She paused near the galley, spoke quietly with the lead, and then came forward to the row. "Hello," she said softly, eyes taking in Maya, Lydia, the older gentleman, and the man in the simple sweater. "Everyone comfortable?" "We are," Maya's dad answered. "Thank you," the captain said to him, tone a shade more formal now. "And thank you, Mr. Brooks, for your patience at the door." The name dropped into the air like a small stone into a still pond. It didn't splash. It made round circles. Sophia's chin dipped with recognition, almost invisible. The lead's eyes carried a quiet nod, a sign between professionals. The older gentleman's eyebrows lifted and then relaxed, as if a puzzle piece had clicked. Lydia looked from the captain to the man standing by 3A. "Mr. Brooks," she repeated, slow and unsure. "As in?" Maya's dad gave a small, polite smile. "Daniel Brooks," he said. "I help run the company." He didn't say it like a trophy. He said it like a weather report. True, simple, and not the center of the day. Lydia's breath shortened for a beat. It was not fear. It was realization, the sudden view you get when fog clears and you see how close the lighthouse has been the whole time. "I see," she said. Her voice had no sharp corners left. "I didn't know." "You weren't expected to know," he said gently. "The process should stand on its own, with or without me." The captain folded her hands. "We'll note this as a learning moment for the whole team," she said. "Verification with care, especially with young passengers. That's the standard." Sophia's eyes warmed. The lead tapped a quick note on her tablet. The older gentleman in 3C made a small sound that might have been a hum of approval. Maya's dad looked at the crew, not just as a leader, but as a person who has been on many morning flights. "You all did what our policy asks," he said. "You confirmed the facts. You stayed kind. You kept the cabin calm." He turned slightly toward Lydia without turning his kindness away. "And you, ma'am, asked for certainty. That is fair. The only part that needed care was the picture in our minds of who belongs where." He didn't look at clothes or faces when he said it. He looked at the boarding pass in Maya's small hand and then at the seat number above the row. "Seats do not know age," he said softly. "They do not know job titles. They know tickets. And we add respect." Lydia's eyes grew shiny, not with tears of shame, but with the feeling that comes when a new idea asks to live in your house. She looked at Maya. "I spoke about standards," she said, voice small but clear. "But I think I was guarding an old picture. I am sorry." Maya held Captain Buttons closer for a moment. She didn't have practice with this kind of moment. She looked at her dad, then at Sophia, then back to Lydia. "It's okay," she said gently. She meant okay to start again, not okay that it happened. "Thank you," Lydia answered. She turned to the crew. "And thank you for checking the record without making noise. I didn't want a scene. I just wanted things to be proper." The lead nodded. "Proper begins with facts," she said. "And care keeps those facts human." The captain gave Maya a tiny pin that looked like a silver star. "For patience," she said. "And for calm." Maya accepted it like a small, bright promise. Maya's dad looked at the older gentleman. "Sir," he said, "thank you for your kind words earlier. After landing, there will be a note on your reservation for a small voucher. A thank you for speaking up with grace." The gentleman lifted a hand. "That's very kind," he said. "I didn't do much." "Sometimes the smallest words steady the biggest rooms," Daniel said. He turned back to Sophia and the lead. "Please also note the scenario in our next training refresh," he said in his steady way. "Call it Seat Challenges with Care. Start with verification. Add child-friendly steps. End with a reminder that dignity is not an upgraded standard." The lead captured his words like a reporter gathering lines that matter. "Seat Challenges with Care," she repeated, thumbs moving. "Verify, child-friendly steps, dignity as standard." The captain looked at Daniel, and there was a professional respect in her eyes. "We'll share it with our chiefs," she said quietly. "Thank you," he replied. "And please no announcement. No story on this plane." He glanced toward Maya, then to the cabin. "We don't need the spotlight to do the right thing." Sophia smiled, a real one that reached her eyes. "We'll keep it quiet," she promised. A cart rolled up the aisle, soft wheels whispering across the carpet. The service began, water, coffee, warm towels offered with a gentle, "Here you go." The normal rhythm, so ordinary, so needed, returned to the front of the cabin like a familiar song. Lydia took a sip of water and looked at her hands. Then she looked at Maya again. "May I say something?" she asked, voice just above a whisper. Maya nodded. She felt brave and kind at the same time, like a bird that knows how to land without noise. "I'm sorry for not trusting what was in your hand," Lydia said, nodding toward the boarding pass. "I thought I was protecting the idea of first class. But first class, I think, is really how we treat people." Maya's dad's eyes warmed. "That's it," he said softly, as if Lydia had solved the riddle. "That's the whole idea." Lydia breathed out. "I would like to make it right," she said to the lead. "If there is a way to note in your system that I appreciate the crew, and the process, I would be grateful." The lead smiled. "I'll add your commendation to the flight record," she said. "It matters." Sophia offered Lydia a warm towel. Lydia accepted it and pressed it gently to her hands, like someone washing away a morning and making space for a better afternoon. Maya's dad turned back to his daughter, and for a moment the plane was just a father and a child in a sky that was learning how to be kind. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like the sky is bigger than I thought," she said, little smile bright. "And like I can breathe better." He chuckled softly. "That's a good feeling," he said. "Hold on to it." The captain excused herself with a nod and returned to the cockpit. The lead moved to the galley to capture notes while the details were fresh. Sophia checked with another row and then returned with a small paper and a tiny pen for Maya. "If you'd like to draw the sky you see," she said, "I'll keep it safe in my pocket until landing." Maya drew a wing cutting through a sunrise. She added a little bear at the window. She wrote 3A in careful letters next to the seat. She looked at Lydia and added a small heart between the two seats, not to be cute, but to mark the place where the morning had changed course. When she finished, she showed it to her dad. He closed his eyes for a second like a quiet thank you and then opened them again. "That's beautiful," he said. "Just like your courage." Lydia watched the drawing with interest. "It's a good picture," she said softly. "I like the heart." "It's the space where people decide who they want to be," Maya said, surprising herself with the words. She hadn't planned them. They simply arrived. "That's a wise answer," Lydia said, truly impressed. She looked at Daniel. "Your daughter has a clear mind." "She does," he said. "And a patient one." The cart came to their row. Sophia poured coffee for Lydia and the older gentleman, and a tea for Daniel. She gave Maya a small container of fruit and another cup of orange juice. "Compliments of the crew," she said lightly. "No special reasons. Just a nice morning." "Thank you," Lydia said, warmth in her voice now. "That's very kind." Daniel looked at Sophia. "Before I take my seat," he said, "I want to say one more thing, for the record." Sophia waited, attentive. "Please mark that our policy worked today," he said. "Not because I was here, but because you were." The gate verified. The cabin team stayed calm. A passenger asked for certainty and received it. A child was protected by facts and kindness. He paused. "This is the standard I want us to keep even on the days when no one important is watching." Sophia nodded, and something like pride glowed softly in her face. "We'll keep it," she said. "On busy days and quiet days." Daniel turned to Lydia and offered his hand across the small space. Not a show, not a statement, just a human gesture at cruising altitude. She shook it, steady and grateful. "Thank you for listening," he said. "Thank you for speaking with respect," she said. He leaned to Maya. "I'm going to my seat now," he told her. "Press the call button if you need me. I'll be here in a heartbeat." Maya nodded. "I know," she said. She touched Captain Button's ear and then the little silver star on her sweater. "I'm okay." He moved down the aisle, not special, not slow, just part of the gentle life of a cabin in the sky. A few passengers looked up and then looked down again, sensing something had happened but not needing to know what. That was fine. Not every truth needed an audience. In 3B, Lydia took a breath that felt like fresh air. She relaxed her shoulders and looked out the window. The clouds looked like pages turned by an invisible hand. She let the view pour into her, and she knew she would remember this morning not as a shame, but as a change. In 3A, Maya popped a grape from the fruit cup and let the sweet taste remind her that small things can be bright. She smoothed the blanket and looked at her drawing again. She felt taller than 8 for a moment, not because of pride, but because courage had stood up inside her and decided to stay. The cabin settled into the normal song of a flight, the faint chime of a call button, the clink of ice, a soft laugh from somewhere in row 5. The sky held steady around them, wide enough for everyone. And the story, which had started with a challenge, moved quietly towards something better, carried by calm words, careful policy, and the gentle power of people choosing to be kind. Service in the cabin settled into a calm rhythm. Cups clinked softly as Sophia and her teammate moved like gentle shadows up and down the aisle. The sky stretched wide and pale outside the window, and the plane hummed with that steady sound that makes people feel safe without thinking about why. Maya finished her fruit cup and placed the empty container on the tray. She touched the little silver star on her sweater and then patted Captain Buttons on the head, as if to tell him he had done well too. In 3B, Lydia held her coffee with both hands, not because it was hot, but because it gave her somewhere to rest her thoughts. The older gentleman in 3C read a few lines from a paperback, then closed it as if the page could wait. After a while, Sophia returned with a small envelope. She leaned toward the older gentleman and spoke quietly. "A thank you from us," she said. "For the way you spoke this morning." He opened the envelope just enough to see a simple voucher inside and smiled, touched more by the gesture than the amount. "You're very kind," he said. "It was nothing." Sophia shook her head. "It helped." Daniel had already slipped away to his own seat farther forward, letting the cabin be a cabin again. He didn't ask for anything special. He didn't signal to anyone. He simply became another passenger who liked quiet flights and clear rules. Lydia looked at Maya, and something like courage crossed her face. She leaned a little toward the aisle so Sophia could see her. "If there's a good time," she said softly, "I would like to say one more thing to the young lady." Sophia glanced at the seatbelt sign still off, then at the calm aisle, then nodded. "Now is fine." Lydia turned to Maya, "Not too close, not too loud." "I wanted to thank you," she said. "Not only for your patience, but for how you sat with your truth. You did not push, and you did not hide. That is, strong." The words felt careful because they were honest. Maya listened. She had not prepared for compliments, so she did what she always did when words felt bigger than she was. She looked at her dad's last smile in her memory and let it steady her. "Thank you," she answered. "Miss Sophia helped. Mr. Tom helped. The paper helped too." She lifted her boarding pass a little and smiled, shy but bright. Lydia's laugh was small and warm. "Yes," she said. "The paper helped too." She looked at the drawing on Maya's tray. "May I see?" Maya slid the paper closer, and Lydia studied the wing, the sunrise, the tiny bear in the window, and the heart between the two seats. "That is beautiful," she said. "I like the heart most of all." Maya nodded. "It is the space where people decide to be kind." For a second, Lydia couldn't speak. A child had said the line she had needed all morning. "Yes," she managed. It is. Sophia moved on to check another row, and the cabin slipped into that pleasant mid-flight quiet where time is soft and minutes walk instead of run. People read. People listen to music. Someone, somewhere, laughed under their breath at a funny line only they could hear through their headphones. The sky held them like an open hand. Later, the captain's voice arrived low and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our descent, please return to your seats and ensure your belts are fastened. We expect a smooth landing and a short taxi to the gate. Thank you for flying with us this morning. The chime followed, friendly and familiar. Sophia collected cups and napkins with careful hands. Seat belts now, she said gently in each row. Maya placed the drawing back in her backpack between two coloring pages, as if putting a story to bed. She tightened her belt, checked that captain buttons was safe by the window, and sat tall. The gray blanket warmed her knees like a small cloud that had learned to rest. Daniel returned briefly, checked on Maya with a quiet look that asked and answered the same question. You okay? Yes, I'm okay, and then slid back to his seat. He didn't need to say more. Some words are better as looks. Outside, the clouds made space. The city below grew from shapes to streets to tiny cars that looked like beads rolling along lines. The wings tilted a little, the flaps eased down. A soft pressure filled the cabin as the plane dropped a polite floor and then steadied again. Maya pressed her hand to her tummy and smiled. Hello, sky, she whispered. The runway rose to meet them. There was the gentle bump, then the long roll, wheels singing their quiet song against the ground. Passengers breathed out like they always do at landing, a sound that isn't quite a cheer and isn't quite a sigh, but something in between, a small chorus of "We made it." The plane slowed, turned, and glided along the taxiway toward the gate. The seat belt sign stayed on. Maya looked at Lydia once more. Lydia looked back, and they exchanged a tiny nod that meant many things at once. Thank you, sorry, good morning, good lesson. The older gentleman rubbed his hands and smiled to himself, maybe thinking about the story he would tell his granddaughter the next time she visited. Not a big story, not a loud story, but a good one. The plane stopped at the gate with a soft hold. The chime sounded again. Welcome, the captain said over the speaker, her voice a ribbon. Please remain seated until the seat belt sign has been turned off. We hope your day continues as calm as the sky. People reached for bags. Belts clicked open. Overhead bins lifted like friendly mouths. The aisle filled with the usual soft shuffle of shoes and thanks. Have a nice day, someone said. You too, someone answered. It was the music of arrivals, simple and kind. Tom appeared at the front with his tablet, as steady as he had been at the gate. He gave Sophia a small nod, the kind teammates give when the game was played well. The lead stepped in from the jet bridge with the same navy vest, checked something with the captain, and then stood aside for the first passengers to leave. Daniel waited near the front until Maya reached him with her backpack and captain buttons tucked under her arm. He bent slightly, not to make her smaller, but to meet her where she was. How's our brave traveler? He asked. Good, she said. I drew the sky. And I learned a new thing. First class means how we treat people. Daniel smiled, the kind of smile that sits in the eyes first. That's the best definition I've heard, he said. May I borrow it for a meeting later? Maya giggled. Okay. But credit me. Always, he said. Lydia stepped into the aisle behind them. She paused, unsure if she should speak again, and then decided to. Thank you, she said to Daniel. For being calm. And for the standard you asked for. He shook his head lightly. The crew made the standard, he said. I just said it out loud. He glanced at Tom and Sophia. They carried the morning with care. Lydia looked at Maya. I gave a note to the lead, she said, almost shy. A commendation for the team. And for you too, young lady. For Grace. Maya blushed and held Captain Buttons closer as if sharing the praise. Thank you, she said. We all had help. They moved onto the jet bridge together, then separated with soft goodbyes, the kind where nobody makes a big show because the day is already full and kindness does not need decoration. In the terminal, the world spread wide again, screens, voices, rolling bags, the smell of coffee like a friendly wave. Daniel guided Maya to a quiet bench by a window. He checked his phone, not for messages that said urgent, but for a small moment to send 2 notes. The first went to a group called Ops Training, add a module, seed challenges with care. Steps, verify without blame, child-friendly support, calm language, dignity as standard. Include today's example, no names needed, plus the line Maya offered, first class means how we treat people. The second went to customer care, please attach a commendation to crew, Sophia, Fa, Tom, Gate, A. Farah, Lead, Captain Reyes, Flight. Note passenger compliment received. He put the phone away and turned to Maya. Do you want breakfast number 2? He asked. We have time. Maya's eyes lit up. Pancakes. Pancakes, he said. They walked toward a small diner with round stools and a griddle that whispered happily. While they waited for their order, Maya took out her drawing again and added one last detail, a small silver star on the sweater of the child in 3A. This is for patience, she said. Captain gave it to me. Daniel nodded. You earned it? Across the terminal, Lydia stood by a window and watched another plane push back. She typed a short message on her phone, paused, and then sent it to customer relations. Today I challenged a seat. Your team handled it with respect and facts. I learned something about standards and kindness. Please thank them for me. She slipped the phone away and let the view fill her, understanding that the day had given her a gift with no ribbon, the kind you keep in your pocket and touch when you need to remember who you want to be. Back at the gate, the lead saved a copy of Maya's drawing on her tablet. She had asked permission to take a photo before Maya left, and Maya had said yes if the drawing could live in the crew room. We'll use it to teach, the lead had promised. Later that week, a small printout of the drawing would appear on a bulletin board titled Moments That Matter, with a simple caption, Seat 3A. A child. A ticket. A comm team. Dignity as standard. In the weeks that followed, the training slide Daniel requested went live. New hire classes watched a short reenactment, a quiet child, a careful crew, a passenger who needed certainty, and a leader whose title never had to be spoken for the truth to stand. The final slide showed one line in big, friendly letters, respect is everyone's ticket. Underneath, smaller, everyone can afford it. Everyone deserves it. But that was later. Right now, pancakes arrived, golden and round. Maya poured a little syrup, careful not to drown the edges, and took a bite that made her eyes close in a tiny dance. Perfect, she said. Daniel laughed. High marks from a top reviewer. When they finished, they walked toward the exit. The city outside looked washed and new, as if the morning had rinsed it with a fresh bucket of light. Maya held Daniel's hand, and their steps matched without trying. They passed a display of travel photos, mountains, beaches, busy streets, and Maya pointed at one where the sky was the brightest thing. That one, she said. That is how today felt. Outside, a breeze found them. It tugged at Maya's sweater and lifted the corner of her drawing before she tucked it safely back into her backpack. She leaned against her dad's side for a second, just long enough to memorize the quiet between them. Thank you for being here, she said. Always, he answered. He looked down with a smile that said many things and added one more. And thank you for teaching me the best line of the day. What line? She asked, even though she knew. He nodded at the place over her heart where the little silver star rested. That first class is how we treat people. Maya nodded. We should put that on the plane, she said. We did, he answered, tapping his temple and then his chest. Here. And here. They moved into the day. Behind them, a flight boarded. Ahead of them, a small plane waited errands, a visit, maybe a park if the wind stayed kind. The story did not need loud music to finish. It closed itself with soft steps, a father and a daughter walking, a morning lesson settling where it belonged, and a gentle truth already on its way to strangers they would never meet. In 3C, hours later on a different flight, an older gentleman would tell the person beside him, "The truth likes quiet rooms," and they would smile, not knowing why that sentence fit so well. In a training room, a group of new crew would read a slide that said, "Verify without blame," and someone would add in the margin, "and smile with your eyes." In a small office, a leader would approve a program called Seat Challenges with Care, and the person who printed the handouts would add a little heart in the corner, not because anyone asked, but because it felt right. And in a kid's backpack, a drawing would rest between pages until it found a bedroom wall, where it would hang for a long time, a wing, a sunrise, a tiny bear at a window, and a bright heart between two seats, the place where the morning changed, the exact spot where a rule met kindness and both became stronger. That was the ending, not loud, not grand, just true. A child kept her seat because it was hers. A team kept their standard because it was right. A passenger found a new picture to carry. And a simple line, "First class is how we treat people," became the kind of ticket the world can use every day, on planes and sidewalks and in small rooms where the truth waits for a calm voice to speak.